Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross, and I'm your co-host tonight for Reflections of the Council. This is our live podcast that we do every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time over on now youtube.com/PraetorMagic/live. And of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Phyrexian Walker.
Hey, what's up?
I don't know, buddy. You back? Took a little week
Yeah,
off? A little vacation?
yeah, vacation, totally. If demoing out houses and floors and putting in new floors is vacation.
To some people, it might be. Some people like working with their hands.
At least because of the weather forecast being like rain every day at some point, I
Mhm.
didn't end up having to do roofing, so that was a positive.
Oh, yeah. You would not want to be on a roof when it starts raining.
Because I was initially going to be doing roofing, but then like the entire week, like every day except for one, there was some forecast of rain, so they ended up scrapping that and sending us to do like flooring projects instead, which was fine by me. It was better, cooler,
Yeah.
because it was mostly indoors, even if the air conditioning was not good, but no cooler than being out on a roof.
So unrelated to the usual topic of these podcasts, which is magic, but once upon a time I was really big into doing Habitat for Humanity, which is basically building low income housing for folks in areas that require low income housing. And there was one particular house that when I started doing it, I basically every time I went to an event, I worked on the same house, and I basically built that roof. Not completely by myself or anything, but I was there on that roof every time I went. So I saw the roof from when we were like setting it up to all the way down to when the shingles were put on. It's pretty cool.
What's up, Edgar?
Hey, buddy. Welcome to the stream. So, before we get too much into the topic, we of course want to remind everybody out there that we are now sponsored by our friends over at inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Make sure you go to the affiliate link down below in the video description or the audio description, depending on whether you're watching on YouTube or out there in podcast world. If you use that affiliate link, we get a little bit of a kickback, and you can also get a little bit of a kickback yourself using our 10% off discount code, which is Praetor10, Praetor10. And of course, you're supporting the channel, so thank you very much for that. So, we took a week off, so we can't finish our set review like I wanted to.
Yes, that was worth it. Every second in Wilmington now worth it.
But we did decide to do kind of a cool thing. We recently started our Patreon, so patreon.com/PraetorMagic, and we have a few people who are, again, supporting channel through that. So again, thank you very much. Uh and one of them is our graphics designer, Fireheart. And we decided that it would be kind of a cool thing to do for people who are supporting the channel to kind of give back, or to give back to them, to display them kind of on our content by occasionally doing videos about their decks or ideas that they have or stuff like that. So we talked to Fireheart, who again is our graphic designer, so we get to talk to him a
I'm gonna
little bit
be honest.
extra.
Until this second, I didn't even know Fireheart's real name.
Well, now we do. Got there.
Thank you, YouTube, for that.
All right. So he gave us one of his decks that he really likes. He's really excited about some of the more recent commanders, and this does feed into the core 2020 set review type thing that we had to miss because Phyrexian, dodged it. And he has built about 1,000,000 Vilis Broker of Blood decks. Now, when we talked about the legendary creatures of core 2020 Phyrexian, we were both pretty high on this one, if I recall correctly.
I do like Vilis a lot.
He's seems very powerful, and just to remind everybody why he seems so powerful, we're gonna read him really quick. Vilis Broker of Blood is a legendary demon. He is only rare. He wasn't a mythic rare, which I know like they did it because of the cycle thing, but he feels like a mythic rare. Anyway, he costs 5 black, black, black. He's an 8/8 flyer for black and pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, which doesn't seem super great. It's kind of like whatever. But whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. Damage causes loss of life. Holy smokes, this. I still look at this ability and I'm like, why would you do this? So, Fireheart loves this because, one, Fireheart, for those of you who don't know, Fireheart's avatar on the Discord is the mono black skull symbol. So, obviously, mono black commander came out with very cool abilities. And he's built, like I said, a couple of decks. And one of the decks that he built, we're going to be looking at today. This is his deck. This is his full deck list. For those of you who are listening to this in podcast world, where obviously we might not be able to go through all 100 cards, there will be a link to his deck list in the description of the podcast, so that you will be able to see it and look it over. Because he does also have a little bit of a primer down here on like early turns and stuff you want to look out for and interactions and stuff like that. So you can click on the link, see his deck, and kind of mull it over yourself while we mull it over on screen. So we're gonna kind of deck this a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how Phyrexian wants to do it because Phyrexian's the best. So Phyrexian,
Oh no.
where do you want to start on this? You have the deck up.
I like starting with the land base.
Mm-hmm. So it's a mono black deck. So first thing I noticed was that there were snow covered swamps. Which did I see? I'm going through the list. There is an extra
for
planar
Dead
lens.
of Winter.
Hmm?
Dead of Winter.
Well, there's also an extra planar lens, which is always really cool to have with snow covered lands because for the people who don't have snow covered swamps, they don't get the benefit.
That's true.
That's normally why I run snow lands. Extra planar lens being a 3-mana artifact. You exile a land when it comes into play, and then all lands that share the same name produce an extra mana of that same kind. So, Dead of Winter is so good. Yep. For obviously cards that are running, or decks that are running snow permanents, which we'll get to that a little bit later. Then there's also the. So this is something I noticed. Cabal Coffers is in here, and it's a mono black deck. So for the most part, it doesn't need Urborg. But when you run mono black decks and you have Cabal Coffers, you run Urborg anyway.
It depends on how many utility lands I'm running. In the case of this deck, it only has Reliquary Tower and Rogue's Passage.
Mhm.
And I guess Nykthos, but I mean, most of the time you're just going to be using Nykthos to get more mana than you would for tapping it for the 1 black anyway.
Yep.
So I'm kind of okay with it. I mean, it does allow Cabal Coffers to tap for a black regardless, so that's nice, but I don't know. I'm okay with it not being included. I think it's unusual that's not included, but
I mean, I think for the most part, because it can take the place of a snow-covered swamp, you don't get the benefit from extra planar lens that way. But I think, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it
I'd
doesn't
actually
really super pay off.
probably put in over Rogue's Passage in this deck. I don't see a whole lot of reason for Rogue's Passage unless I'm just wrong.
It's a flying 8/8 commander.
Yeah, it's a flying 8/8 commander, but
I'm just saying, when you get into the game where, target or player 2 and player 3 are all running nothing but flying creatures, you're like, how do I end this game? Minus, obviously, the finishers that are in the deck that we're going to
I
go
mean,
over.
they already
But
have the finishers in the deck. I don't know that it's. This doesn't feel to me like the kind of deck that's going to be using Vilis as a beatdown very often, but it says because of budget and not owning Urborg.
oh, that's fair too. At the end of the day, everybody plays to, what they have.
There are 36 lands and 29 snow-covered swamps.
Do you think
Most
that's a
you?
low count?
Considering the commander cost 8, maybe.
Mhm.
He is running a lot of ramp as well.
That's true. So all the non-basic lands are Cabal Coffers, Cabal Stronghold, Mirrored Landscape, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, Reliquary Tower, Rogue's Passage. So Cabal Coffers and Cabal
Most you.
Strongholds and a mono black deck are just good. Nykthos and any kind of high devotion, any monocolored deck is probably good unless you're just running a lot of artifacts. The commander draws cards, so Reliquary Tower makes a lot of sense. I still say the Rogue's Passage is probably fine with Vilis in just the rare cases you're gonna need to get them through. I think it's fine to have it. Varied Landscape's just uh it's probably a better Evolving Wild than Terramorphic Expanse because it only takes up 1 card spot and it can tap from land. Even
I
though it
guess for
doesn't
me,
have
I
to
just
tap.
always think of Rogue's Passages in those decks that really are looking to win by commander damage or need their commander or a creature within the deck to do combat damage to do their thing. But I mean, it's not bad to have in other decks, but just it's not like an auto include for me just because my commander's big and beefy.
Okay.
I'm not looking to use him to win the game that way, which in Vilis's case, I don't think we are.
And then the last non-basic land is, I'm gonna say this wrong. Preface this now. Bosiju, who shelters all? Legendary land. It comes into the battlefield tapped, and tap pay 2, add 1 generic to your mana pool if this is spent on instant or sorcery spell. That spell can't be countered by spells and abilities. So I really like this one because looking at the finishers, I do notice a few instants and sorceries that are doing it. Not to mention that, but the pay 2 life basically means once Vilis is out, you're drawing 2 in addition to just getting mana. So it's actually a lot of value for just a land that enters tap. Like, it doesn't look like a lot normally on its own, but in a deck like this, I think it shines a little bit more so than usual because you get those 2 cards when Vilis is out, and because your obviously because your finishers are uh, some of them are instants or sorceries. So in like a kind of a spell slinger deck, this is super good, and this isn't spell slingery, but that's how you're ending the game, then that's good enough. Any other special comments on the land base? Seems pretty basic. No, no.
Not basic, it's snow covered.
You're awful. I hate you. They're snow covered basics. They're basic snow lands.
I'm good.
All right, where do you want to move on to next?
I don't know. Why don't you pick the next category?
Fine. You did mention ramp, so we could talk about that. The one that I mean, there's some of like the super ordinary stuff. There's Charcoal Diamond in here. There's Cryptcast. There's Jet Medallion. Those are all really good. Mind Stone is obvious. Nirkana Revenant is the more expensive version of Cryptcast, and I mean that in terms of mana cost. It's a 6-drop instead of 4-drop. Dark Ritual is interesting because I don't think most times Dark Ritual is going to get you to like a super early Vilis. I mean, it can, but I just
Yeah, I was interested in the inclusion of Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual and like why they were in there.
I think a lot of it because it's cheap ramp. You know what I mean? They're 1-drop kind of ramps and stuff like
Oh,
that.
1-drop and 2-drop ramp, I
Yeah.
get, but like you said, not 1-drop and 2-drop ramp that's very often going to get you to your commander quickly.
Maybe it's just to burst out some of your other early stuff. Because if you can get your let's say you keep a handful of like ramp and a couple lands. If you can burst out all your ramp and get to villas quicker that way, you know what I mean? Because there is 18 pieces of ramp, so there's a good chance your opening hand is going to start with more than just the ritual and a couple lands as far as ramping goes. So if you can dark ritual into like your soul ring and your mind stone or something like that, that's a pretty good turn 1 / whatever else you can then pay, because now you've got 3 mana to do, I don't know, something else. I don't see like Warren Power Stone or anything in here. There's extra planar lens in here, although I I don't know if you want to turn 1 an extra planar lens. It seems dangerous, but Urza's Incubator, there you go. There's your 3-drop to make Villa's cost. I'm assuming it's for demons, so you make Villa's cost the 2 less. So now you go from your 9-drop commander to your 7-drop, and you've got 4 mana on turn 1. So it seems that's actually not the worst.
You mean your 8-drop commander to your 6-drop?
That's what I said.
Yep. Counting mana is hard.
Some of the other things, Bubbling Muck is obviously the black version of Rising Tide, or not Rising Tide, High Tide, Rising Tide. I don't even think. Expedition map to again go and get like the Cabal Coffers, the Cabal Stronghold, or the Nykthos. I guess it depends a little bit on how your devotion is. I did like the Urza's Incubator, and I'm trying to look over the list now. How many demons is he running?
Just one.
Okay. Is there only one creature in this deck?
No, they're
there's
like
Erebos.
8 or 7.5 because Erebos is not always going to be a creature.
There's 10 creatures total, according to the stats. Find them. I'm gonna find them. So there's Vilis, there's Erebos. I don't know if the Cryptolith Fragment is counting as a creature, but then there's the Cryptcast and Nirkana Revenant, which are ramp cards. There is the Scourge Familiar, Gary, Pontiff Blight. Looks like it. Didn't seem like 10. Maybe I missed. But so yeah, but then again, there's really only the one demon. But I guess having your 8 drop down to a 6 drop if you can get it out early, or just in general, like you kind of circumvent the first set of command attacks that way too, even if you get it after he's died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a little curious about the Fell War Stone. I'm guessing this is just because it's a 2 drop. Not that like you're gonna typically have problems with people playing Black and Commander, but what if you are sitting there with the Simic and the green decks and that one Boros guy who swears Boros isn't that bad?
They're
What do you
wrong.
what are you gonna do when you're sitting across from 3 magical hackers?
Concede. But I don't know. I do think like some of the ramp choices were interesting to me. Like, given the low creature count, Heartless is kind of interesting. But I get this to drop. I get that they're there to drop Vilis to 6. Urza's Incubator, same thing. I get that's like a 2 cost reduction on your commander. But when that's all they're really doing, it does seem to be a little weaker to me on the ramp scale. Like, what makes Urza's Incubator that much better than Worn Power Stone? Or is it just that you have an Urza's Incubator and you don't have Worn Power Stone? Um, that's kind of my thought process and questioning on those. At least Heartless is 1 mana less.
Yeah. I can kind of see that mentality though, because the Worn Power Stone will help you cast more things than just
Yeah,
your
it
commander.
helps you cast your Gary. It helps you cast your It's 2 more for your Exsanguinate. It's, you know,
And not for nothing, but Urza's Incubator is, I don't want to say like it's an infamous card, like I don't want to like talk it up more than it is, because I actually don't think Urza's Incubator is super great. It's good in certain decks, but overall, for the most part, I feel like it's on target a lot of the time. You play it and you name like, oh, Eldrazi, or oh, um, demons or something like that, or dragons, and people are gonna remove it because taking 2 off of every one of those kind of spells that you're trying to cast is scary. And for people who don't know your deck, in like this regard, you're gonna name demon. People are gonna think it's a tribal demon deck, and like again, demons are scary. Demons are typically, I think, average out around like a 5 drop, 5 to 6 drop. So people don't want you playing Urza's Incubator presumably around turn 3. So people don't want to see your big scary demons the next turn. So it
yeah.
is kind of like prime for targeted removal. It can eat a K grip, but Worn Power Stone tends to not do that as much. Again, it's a little bit of a meta call. So if you're running like a big mono black big ramp deck, they might want to do that if they think your win con is always going to be Torment of the Hellfire and Exsanguinate and whatever else. So maybe the Worn Power Stone gets removed occasionally if it's a meta call, but I think probably 9 times out of 10, Worn Power Stone doesn't get removed, whereas Urza's Incubator will.
Yeah.
You do kind of like showcase what you're doing at least a little bit. In here, you're only doing it for the one demon, but you're doing it for a demon. People know that's what it does. Worn Power
I
Stone is
like
just a rock.
I like Bubbling Muck a lot, and
Okay, so Pyroheart says Incubator is kind of a meme from Playgroup. The only one who runs it is an Atali deck just for Atali. So yeah, okay. Worn Power Stone would overall be better, but there's a Jet Medallion in the deck as well, which is really good because it's a mono black deck, so all your black spells are going to be reduced by 1. So overall, I think aside from the rituals that we talked about and the Incubator, which is again inside joke with the group, there's also a Liliana of the Dark Realms in here, like that. I know not everybody's super crazy. Like Liliana of the Dark Realms, I think is probably one of the more fair Lilianas that they've done. So they've either done really bad Lilianas, really broken Lilianas, or Liliana of the Dark Realms. That's kind of how I feel about Liliana the Planeswalker. So this is probably the most fair one that, like, yeah, people might get rid of it because of the -3, but if you are just kind of plussing it, they're obviously not gonna want you to ult it because then like you're gonna go crazy. But it tends to stick around for a turn or two if there's not super good attacks or if the attack is risky where you're opening yourself up to crap. I've almost always gotten at least 2 activations out of a Liliana every time I've played one. All right, there's your ramp. I pick. You pick now. You can't do finishers. Those are for last.
Let's
There's a
just hit up
finish.
removal. Both targeted and mass. Let's just do some removal.
All right. So I have to look at one card because it's a newer card. Moving the Ineffable. 6 mana Planeswalker, colorless. Comes in with 4 loyalty. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which is obviously good for all the rocks. So a lot of his rocks just become free with this.
Yeah.
+1, exile the top card of your library, face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 spirit token. When the token leaves the battlefield, put the exile card in your hand. -3, destroy permanent that's 1 or more colors. Okay, so this is enchantment removal, I guess, more than anything, because a lot of times your artifacts are not colored. And that's something that he mentions down in the primer. There's a decent amount of removal for things that black does not have a great amount of removal for. So there is a Scour from Existence, which is a 7 mana sorcery, just exile target permanent. Or is it non-land permanent? Nope, just exile target. Oh, I'm sorry, it's an instant too. Exile target permanent. So you're gonna have some of those problem artifacts and enchantments. Mono black's not known for being able to deal with them.
Or even lands.
That's true. Although, oh, that's something we didn't see in the lands that we didn't think about. No Strip Mine, no Ghost Quarter, no Tectonic Edge, or Field of Ruin. But that might be a meta call too, if you're not dealing with a lot of like super spicy lands. If there's no Gaia's Cradle, you're probably fine.
Yeah, but there's always that growing rates of unlocking and around. Yeah. I like the fact that some of his targeted removal is stuff like Consume Spirit and Corrupt and stuff like that that's gaining him life back so he can, suicide more.
Yep.
It's always nice to be able to suicide more in a suicide black deck. Imp's Mischief I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen someone play this in a game of Commander. Haven't played enough.
I saw an.
But I do like it for this deck if Vilis is out, because obviously that says, redirect this thing and then
draw.
And draw some cards, so that's not bad.
So, Imp's Mischief, I saw one played on a Game Nights episode. It was the one with Rachel Agnes, who's part of the CAG, and Kenji Nagamura? Kenji Watanabe, as we know him. I can't remember what his last name is. Rachel was playing Orzhov, and I forget what she was trying to do, but she tried to Imp's Mischief, like a spell that Josh Lee Kwai cast to stop her from exiling his Aetherflux Reservoir. Didn't work out for her in the end, but I have seen it cast, presumably to work. And I think one other time I've seen it cast and it did work, which I think again was another Game Nights episode. So I'm guessing it's because it's an older card, maybe it's just one of those things that we don't see a lot anymore because people don't think about it. But it's kind of the closest thing mono black gets to legit counter spell, as opposed to what's the one? I don't know, the one where you basically either make them pay 5 life or counter their spell. I can't remember what it's called. But this is a instant rare 1 in the black. Change the target of target spell with a single target. You lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So if you use this to redirect counterspell, for instance, you're going to lose 2 life, which means you're going to, if Vilis is on the field, you're going to draw 2. Or all that for 2 mana. So you save whatever spell was going to get countered. You get to draw, you get to replace it, plus another one for 2 mana, 2 life. So I like it. It's an interesting card, and again, it works. It's one of those things where it's fine on its own, especially for mono black, but then you put it with Vilis's bottom ability, and it becomes really good. And
That's
it's
better,
it's
yeah.
like a trick. It's always fun to trick somebody.
And kind of you get Reckless Spite, where it's the same thing. Destroy 2 non-black creatures, you lose 5 life. So it's like,
Yep. For 3 mana.
it's basically using these downsides, quote unquote, in black and just gaining.
Which, I mean,
At the Corrupt, which gains you life, and the Tendrils of Corruption, which gains you life.
yep. Oh god, there's gonna be so many cards for corrupt. What are the card called? Whatever. Oh, duh, it's the first one. I know how to read.
Thought Distortion's easy, interesting too.
What's that do?
This spell can't be countered for 4 and 2 black, and this target opponent reveals their hand, exile all non-creature non-land cards from the player's hand and graveyard.
Oh yeah, so this is
Majorly screw over a Spellslinger deck.
yep. This is a newer card from 420. I like this card. I like the disruption that it brings. How many times do you have somebody? I personally won a game because I've cast Cyclonic Rift twice. So if this gets cast, then I obviously don't have that option anymore. I mean, if you get it before they even cast Cyclonic Rift the first time, if they're tapped out or something, and they just lost their Cyclonic Rift, then how are they gonna win the game if they're a blue deck without Cyclonic Rift? You know what I mean?
I've done it.
Have you though? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Uh,
Cyclonic Rift's not allowed in MOCL videos, and I won with an Exit deck.
That's true. You had the Storm off though.
Yeah, I did it without Cyclonic Rift. Then we have our Mass Removal suite. You got Crux of Fate. Destroy all non-dragons or destroy all dragons. Pretty sure it'll be destroy all dragons most of the time.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Really, all the time. Dead of Winter, which works well with his, snow permanents.
Yeah, this is the one
Cold
that you
Steel
were...
Heart and his snow-covered swamps. Yeah.
You're talking about this one before. This is a 3-mana sorcery, 2 and a black. All non-snow creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of snow permanents you control. So that does include like a better Toxic Deluge for snow land decks.
Yeah, but in this deck, I was really didn't know why Toxic Deluge wasn't in it, other than it seems weird that you wouldn't have one. Toxic Deluge seems perfect for this deck.
So this is the thing.
It's got the additional cost, pay X life, and all creatures get -X. So if you're playing Toxic Deluge, this is out.
So I always have this thing about this. This is something that I've been thinking about since Vilis was previewed. At what point have you drawn too many cards?
Never.
Oh, okay.
The only way is if you draw all the cards.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe Pyreheart does mention that he doesn't own it, and that's why. But that's something that I think you kind of have to think about when you're doing a Vilis deck. I know it's suicide, and we're gonna get to a little bit of an interesting card for the deck that kind of plays into that. But at some point, or too many cards to draw. That's when you don't have any left.
Yes. When you have 0 cards in deck, that is when you've drawn too many cards.
He's got the Killing Wave in there, so he can pay to keep his Vilis. Killing Wave being X black. For each creature it controls. For each creature its controller sacrifices it unless he or she pays X life. So if he names or pays 5 in X, he can pay 5 life, draw 5 cards to keep Vilis. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I like Killing Wave in this deck too. Mutilate, I was more me. I mean, that would be definitely the one I'd pull out immediately, almost for.
Yeah.
Toxic Deluge, if when you get one.
Yeah, Mutilate's just basically a 1 more mana version of Dead of Winter.
Essentially in this deck, yeah.
Yeah, because his swamps are his snow permanents for the most part.
Well, yeah, it's Cold Steel Heart too. That's about it.
That's why I said for the most part.
Necromantic Selection. Destroy everything. Return creature card. Put it in graveyard under your control. It's a black zombie in addition to its other types. I don't know. This one's a little I've always found this one to be a little expensive at 7 mana for me. What it does. So I get some people like it a lot.
I think it's a different
way. It can be so good.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes it's destroy everything and then get a Llanowar Elf.
I don't know. It's sometimes. Well, I mean, I think with this, he can put his commander to the graveyard too.
Yeah, if his commander's on the battlefield.
Yeah, so he can basically destroy everything but my commander. Is essentially what he can do.
I don't know that I don't just which he might not have a damnation or But even like a Black Sun Zenith or something in this slot instead.
Yeah, just for the lower cost.
Yeah, just for the lower cost. But I get the destroy everything, return Vilis is nice. But like to me, like a Black Sun Zenith for 5 probably does pretty similar. But I guess that's 7 mana.
Maybe he also has a lot of graveyard players in his meta.
Maybe he does.
That way, you got people loading up their graveyards, and then you're like, oh, well, I mean, you have to. It has to be destroyed this way, but still, graveyard players tend to sometimes play some of the things that they want to go to the graveyard. So you destroy everything, like, oh, I'll take somebody's, Gary, and there's a decent amount of devotion in his non-creatures in this deck, so he still gets a decent chunk off of Gary, even if Gary's the only creature on the field. So we talked a little bit about Vilis. I want to take a quick look at the things he does to protect Vilis. There's actually both of the staples. There's Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. I think that's just for redundancy, which is fine. He also has Darksteel Plate, which I like because Vilis. You don't want to be replaying Vilis a lot. I can't spell.
Yeah, because Vilis is already expensive.
Yeah.
Every time you cast him, 2 more.
2 more.
Hmm.
Not just 1, but 2. So Darksteel Plate is obviously a fairly well-known artifact. It's a rare equipment. It costs 3 mana. It's indestructible, and equipped creature has indestructible for an equipped 2. So essentially, a 5 mana investment to not have to pay that commander tax that we're talking about into Vilis over and over and over and over again. So I like this. A lot of the times you'll see Darksteel Plate in decks where the commander is either the engine or the win con. And I think for this one, Vilis is the engine, right? Like, he's not necessarily the win con, but he gets you deeper and deeper into your deck to find the win con. So I think it kind of falls into that. I don't actually know what Blessing of Leeches does.
Blessing of Leeches is a 3-drop, 2 and a black. It has flash. You enchant the creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. Draw cards with Vilis. And for 0, you can regenerate enchanted creature.
Okay. It regenerates a mechanic that we don't really see in cards anymore. It's not going to be reprinted much at all anymore. Which means that a lot of the newer board wipes obviously don't have, they cannot be regenerated. Wrath of God, Damnation, not really a thing anymore. And what's Soul Channeling? Do you know that one?
Soul Channeling, isn't that the one that like you're paying to regenerate?
I don't know because I can't type.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 and a black, enchant creature, pay 2 life, regenerate enchanted creature.
This one's really cool. I like this one. Soul Channeling. I'm gonna draw 2 cards to regenerate my commander. No big deal.
Oh, I'm gonna draw 2 cards to regenerate my commander.
So
I'm gonna do it again.
The biggest thing about Vilis that I think makes him slightly fair is that his own activated ability, which requires you to pay life, also actually has a cost, which is that 1 black mana. And him being an 8-drop, a lot of times you're going to get to 8, pay him, or play him, and then not have any mana left over to start getting a benefit from him immediately, minus somebody hitting you. So whenever I see an activated ability that all the activation is to pay the 2 or 1 life or whatever, I really like that. Because it means that you can then immediately, if this is already out, or one of the other cards is already out, you can immediately start drawing cards right then and there. Even if Vilis does get removed the turn it comes out. Because again, Vilis is going to be scary. He's a flying 8/8 commander. So if you ramp as hard as you do, and then your commander is a draw engine, people are going to want to remove it. Either that or they're going to try to remove you, one or the other. So I like that you can have responses to people trying to get rid of Vilis, because yeah, it sucks that you're gonna have to pay the 2 more, but at least you're getting something out of it. I will say this: we haven't gone over the card advantage, and I just thought, is Underworld Connections still just too slow in a deck like this? Because he's not in the deck.
Yeah.
But enchant a land, you pay a life to draw a card, so you basically pay a life to draw 2 cards. Doesn't that just make Underworld Connections, which is not like a staple black card, but it's a fairly common black card, right?
Yeah.
I would think that it would at least see some kind of play in this. Because again, you put it on land. Lands obviously don't have summoning sickness, so as long as you have an open land to put it on, you basically just start tapping stuff and cards. Speaking of draw, pretty standard. What do you think about Phyrexian Arena for this too?
I don't know. Again, like they can be good, but they also kind of they're slow
Yeah.
for what this deck is trying to do. And I think that you just get so much more value out of other cards in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that loses you life draws cards with Vilis.
Yeah.
And yes, this is like at the beginning of your upkeep, you'll draw 2 cards, and when you lose the 1 life. But
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a little bit slow. That's
Yeah.
my opinion on it for what this deck is trying to do.
So recently, I forget whether it was on Twitter or if it was in the EDH Rec Slack or something like that, but or maybe it was even on our Discord. But somebody was talking about Phyrexian Arena and how much they love the card and everything like that. And I made a comment and I drove people crazy. But basically, my comment was that Phyrexian Arena was a good card 10 years ago, and by today's standards, it's no longer the stable or staple it used to be. Is it bad? No. Is it should it be in every mono black deck like it used to? Maybe not anymore. Just saying. I know controversial, everybody just turned off the podcast, everybody just left and all that other stuff, but I'm just saying, I don't think it's quite as good as it used to be. I love repeatable effects that I can control. And in Vilis, like you were mentioning, there's so many of them that you can just have a pay into effect, and that's your draw spell. So it's no longer, well, I have to wait for my upkeep and hope it doesn't get removed before then, because the worst feeling in the world, and people have done this, it's happened to me, I've done it to other people. Turn 3, you play your Phyrexian Arena, you go to untap on your turn 4 as it goes around the table, and somebody removes your arena.
Yeah.
So you basically did nothing on your turn 3, which turn 3 is, I think, one of the more, turn 3 to 5, I think, are some of the most important turns in Commander. Because if you didn't get the quick start on turn 1 or 2, turn 3 and 5 is when you're really hitting a stride where this is when I'm going to start doing things, or I'm setting up to do my big things. So to have your turn 3, your first, big setup turn, not matter, I think is the worst, and it happens. People do not like card draw when it's on the other side of the table, of course. So some of the other ones in here, Sign in Blood, Read the Bones, are just, I don't think we need to talk about them. Those are still pretty stable-ish cards, and then they're even better again because of Vilis. Necropotence is extra good here. I think the only concern I would have with Necropotence is that I'd be worried about losing lots of cards if you're being attacked a lot, or like hit with spells or effects that deal one to everybody or whatever. Like if you're taking a lot of damage and then drawing too many cards, obviously at the end, if you don't have your Reliquary Tower out or your
Well, I mean, he has the Reliquary Tower, he has the Venser's Journal, he has the
Thought Vessel,
Thought Vessel, so he has a few ways to
yeah,
keep the cards. But yeah, it
I
could be
just
pretty bad to watch a lot of your cards get discarded into exile.
yeah, that's just my big concern is that. But again, it's extra good because with Necropotence, the big turn down right is always that I'm gonna pay all this life to draw these cards, not even at the beginning of my next turn, but at the end of my next turn. Unless you're doing it during your turn, in which case you're getting them at the end. You know what I mean? Like you're doing it at the end step. But with Vilis out, now you're drawing a card immediately and getting a card later. So I love Necropotence for Vilis for that, but the concern of just, again, what if I draw too many cards and I don't have a no maximum hand size thing, then a lot of those cards are going to be gone forever. If it was discard and that's fine, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. Even the downside of skip your draw step doesn't matter to me because I'm playing Vilis and I'm going to draw cards some way, somehow. I'm in mono black and I need to pay life to draw cards, I'll find a way. Just that's my only concern with Necropotence though, is that a lot of those cards are gonna go away and they're gonna go away forever. So
Yeah.
And then Erebos, God of the Dead, which is another way to pay life. It's also to stop life gain decks. I like that. The thing that a lot of people tend to forget about. It does have the text that your opponents can't gain life, and that's important too. Your opponents can't gain life, so you can continue to gain life while you're trying to do your pay life nonsense, but everybody else can't. And at the end of the day, it's a 5/7 creature with devotion, which it's gonna get devotion in a deck like this, because this and Vilis are 4 out of the 5 you need. So, you want to talk about some tutors, there, buddy?
Yeah, we got Beseech the Queen, which is one of my favorite mono black tutors.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I like it a lot. It's for either 2 colorless or black hybrid 3 times. So it's either 6, or you can pay 2 and 2 black, or you can play 4 and a black, or you can play 3 black. It's search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. So I actually like this a lot in mono black.
Yeah.
Just because you're usually paying it for the 3, and then you get to search up a decent card. So a very good card, depending on what you need.
Yep.
It is one of those cards that I tend to hold on to just to wait until I really know, like, I need the second piece of a combo, or, okay, I need the board wipe, or what do I need at the time? But I like it a lot.
That was the thing I was gonna, once you were done, chime in with, is that just because you can pay for 3 black, and in a mono black deck, you're gonna probably have that usually turn 3-ish, maybe turn 4 if like you get the reliquary tower first or something like that. You don't always want to play it turn 3 because of that converted mana cost equal to less than or equal to lands thing, but it is a really good later on tutor because it only costs 3. It doesn't have to actually cost 6, and we did mention that there's a decent amount of. Well, I guess most of the ramp isn't fetching. I apologize. I was thinking about like the extra planar lens. I'm not the expedition map and stuff like that. So there's not a huge amount of like land tutors, which is obviously more green effect, but I don't know. I think you'll overall be fine as long as you are hitting your land drops, which you're going to be drawing so many cards that I think you're going to hit your land pretty much every time on curve.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the other 3?
The other 3 are Dark Petition, which is the 3 and 2 black. Search your library for a card, put it in your hand, and if you have spell mastery, you get the 3 black back. Diabolic Tutor, which is just your standard 2/2 black. Search your library for a card. Increasing Ambition, which is for 4 and a black. Search your library for a card, and then you can flash it back for 7 and a black to get 2 cards instead. And I like Increasing Ambition because, especially late game, because it can get you that 2 card you need for combo or just 2 good cards for the situation you're in. It is a little bit of mana.
I like it because there's not a huge jump from 5 to 8. Like if you play this turn 5 or turn 4, getting to that 8 mana, like a lot of people will forget about it and not really think about it, and then out of nowhere, 8 mana, and you go and find 2 other cards, and then next turn you win.
Yeah.
It would only be crazier if it was instant speed, which if it was,
that would be broken.
Yeah. I don't nobody wants that. So just really quick to go over some of the other big life gain cards. We did mention Venser's Journal, which just draws cards equal to the number of cards in your hand at the beginning of your upkeep. Pontiff of Blight, which gives all your creatures extort. Again, there was only 10 creatures total, so I think it's mostly actually just the little bits and pieces. And in a commander game, I assume most people play 4-player commander at this point, because that seems to be the sweet spot for commander games. There's never that odd man out, and you could have the 2v2s, you could have the 1v1 with the 1v1 on the side kind of thing going on, and it's just probably the best. And then if there's an arch enemy situation, you have 3 people against 1. And I think if there's an arch enemy situation, 4 versus 1 is just too much. Like it just shuts down the possibility of being the strong player, which kind of sucks. But it still represents a good challenge for the 3 players to be able to team up and get the 1 person down. So Extort is typically going to net you 3 life per extortion. So even if it's Pontiff of Blight and Vilis, that's still going to be 6 life each time you tap 2 extra mana, which again we talked about. There's a lot of ramp, especially land doubling ramp. So if 1 swamp equals 2 black mana every time you play a spell, you have, as long as you have a swamp left over, you get 2 black mana. You XR twice, you get 6 life back for whatever your crazy shenanigan is, where you're trying to lose life to draw cards. And then Whip of Erebos, which kind of goes back a little bit into the idea of Vilis being a beat stick, which doesn't justify the rogue's passage. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm trying to say, but just having a flying 8/8 that now gains you life, where you want to lose life to get a good effect. I just think that's a sweet synergy where a lot of times you are going to make yourself very, very low by paying all this life to do all these things, and hitting these things is going to be hitting somebody for 8 in general is just going to fuel you that much more. Just my thoughts.
I actually saw it as also as just a cheap way to say, okay, Vilis died. I'm gonna send it to the graveyard. I have my whip out. I'm gonna whip it back.
That's
And then
Mhm.
when it gets exiled, it goes to command zone. Then I pay my 2 extra. But right now, I just paid
Yep.
4 for my 8 drop commander. So I saw it as a way to do that too with it.
Yeah, that's really good too, because of all we were just talking before about all the activated abilities that are free minus the paying of life. So you just need to have Phyllis on the field. I mean, it also,
Or even in-game whipping out a Gary is not bad.
yeah. I mean, I like the fact that Whip gives it haste as well, right? So that if you have to whip, or not have to, but if you want to, you whip Phyllis back. You attack with them. A lot of these effects that pay life are instant speed anyway, so if somebody goes to remove him or stop you or whatever, you still just draw cards right before he goes. And if not, he hits and you get life, which again is going to help you draw cards.
Hmm.
So I like the flexibility of it. It does a lot of things in the deck that people might not even really think about. Like I didn't think about that. What
Because
you
this doesn't seem like the best whip deck. And admittedly, when I was looking through this deck the first time, I was like, whip. Then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, he's an 8/8 flyer, so that's 8 life. Kind of giving him the Gristle
Yeah.
brand effect with the 2 cards, but then also the fact that you can just whip him out and then just let him get exiled and go back to the command zone was another thing that really put it over the top for me for this card. Because a lot of times, your whip decks tend to be more like ETB effects
hmm
and stuff where you're gonna get that extra value for him. He doesn't. This deck doesn't have as much of that, other than Gray Merchant, but still pretty good, I think.
I also like there's a social aspect here that I think doesn't always work, but shouldn't be ignored. You sit down at a table and somebody sees whip, and they're gonna be like, "Oh man, get rid of that," because that's gonna be crazy. And you'll be like, "Dude, I only have 10 creatures in the whole deck, and one of them is my commander." So you can almost socially engineer that your whip isn't the strongest enchantment or artifact at the table, which is probably true. Yeah, I mean, there's some crazy enchantments and artifacts still in the deck that we haven't even talked about. Plus, whatever everybody else is playing, artifacts in general are just crazy strong. So you're like, whips here just for the incremental life gain I hit for if I can hit. It might not be the scariest thing. Like, it's not meant to be crazy, stupid ETB stuff. Like, I'm not running this with Gary, with Panharmonicon, with, all these other things. With, Sidisi and all these other, like, mono black ETB things. It's not an ETB deck. So it's really just here just for the kind of incremental life gain I might get out of hitting somebody. Or hitting a creature. Like, I don't even care if you chump block. I just want to gain the life. Like, I just want to stay in the game. So you can kind of social engineer that a little bit. All right, so this is called a quote unquote suicide deck, and that's meant to basically say that you're paying in life, you're hurting yourself in the game to get an effect, right? So, one of my favorite new cards of this effect is Bolus the Citadel, which is just really nuts in this deck. It's 3 black, black, black. We talked about this back when we did our War of the Spork cards. Did I just say Spork again?
Yes.
God damn it. War of the Spark set review. It is a legendary artifact. It's black because of the black cost. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. And if you tap it and sacrifice 10 non-permanent lands, each opponent loses 10 life. So, one, I still maintain to people that bottom ability can kill people out of nowhere when they least expect it because it's 10 on them permanents. It's not really great for this deck because there's not a lot of tokens or creatures or anything. There's a decent amount of like mana rocks and everything, so you might get it off that way. Especially if it's late game and like everybody's sitting at like single digit life. But that middle ability, that play the top card and then pay life instead of its converted mana cost, is where you're gonna go crazy. You're gonna play one spell and gain, or not gain, but draw a buttload of cards. And this, like, I struggle to say what deck with black in it does not want a Bolus to Citadel, minus like maybe 5-color decks. Phyrexian's like, no, 5-color decks can run it. It's too good.
No, I'm saying that. I think you're pushing a little hard here. Pushing a little hard, but it is a very good card, and I definitely should see playing a lot of black decks.
What deck do you run that has black in it that doesn't want Bolus to Citadel, Phyrexian? I'll wait. Ah, we're waiting.
There are several decks where it's not the most efficient use of your time or mana or your six drop slot.
You said that, but you haven't backed it up. I'm just saying.
I don't even think I'd run it in my Marin deck, honestly.
Really? Would that sacrifice 10 permanents? That's a lot of experience counters.
Yeah, but I already have all the experience counters by the time I'd even cast this.
Really? Marin's a 5-drop, right?
A 4-drop.
Oh. Why did I think Marin was a 5? Anyway.
I don't know. I said I'd run it in most mono black decks, but the 3 black and being 6 mana, it isn't the easiest thing to cast in other decks. Like bigger black decks that aren't running green, perhaps.
That's fair. I don't know. I think we've gotten to a point where there's just so much color fixing. Like if you, I guess you kind of have to build the deck with this in mind if you do want it. Like even an Orzhov deck, right? Like you just have a lot of dual lands.
Kraus says he has an Abzan deck. He can't fit it in.
What? What kind of Abzan deck are you running? If you say Carador, I'm ending this stream because Carador would probably love this. All right. Well,
he's probably talking Dorn.
That's fair. Well,
Tower.
Dorn doesn't really do Citadel stuff. Wall of Blood is another one that I like. It's again just a activated ability, instant speed, pay a life. I think I like, and maybe I'm crazy, Phyrexian. You can tell me if I am. Pay 1 life on an activated ability that's free, right? Minus obviously the pay life and instant speed is better than pay 2 because you can control it better.
Yeah.
And like, what do you have to worry about? A split second spell, which really it's Sun Spoiling and K Grip, and that's really the 2 main ones.
Well, K Grip won't hit this.
What?
I said K Grip won't hit this or Vilis.
Well, I'm saying like those are the only 2 effects on not just on this, but just in general, right? Like those are the 2 main split second cards you even have to worry about messing with pay 1 over and over and over again as opposed to pay 2, half as much.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. Like when I first started thinking about this, I'm like, oh, big pay effects are going to be great. And I'm like, but what if I don't want to pay 10 when I'm at 12? Like, what if I just want to pay maybe 4 when I'm at 12? So I can stay at 8. You know what I mean? So like, I like the flexibility of the pay ones. Maybe I'm crazy. And I think Firehard talked in the Discord that there weren't a lot of pay 1 effects that were worth it. Wall of Blood being one of them. But I think I remember him saying that Necropotence obviously being the big one, pay 1, and then get the 2 cards. But we already talked about that. So, any of these other ones that you especially like? Full Bargain, Infernal Contract. Full Bargain seems like that's what I'm. Okay, actually, Infernal Contract. This is what I'm talking about. Right, Infernal Contract.
Draw 4 cards, lose half your life, rounded up.
Yeah.
For 3 black. The same card.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, like this is kind of what I'm talking about, where like you're gonna draw a buttload of cards, and that's great.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Well, what if it's too many?
There's no such thing. Stop, sir.
When you have 7 cards left in the deck and half your life is 8,
Nope. Doesn't matter.
then you're dead.
Then you die with pleasure and a smile on your face.
You die with pleasure. I'm like, it's a
see there?
PG-13 show.
Yes. Suicide. There you go.
I just like, you don't want to lose the game though, especially if, I don't know, if you're drawing that many cards. I just kind of assume you're ahead. If you've drawn most of your deck, I assume you're winning this game. However, that would be kind of a crappy, like, it's like the Lab Maniac deck that doesn't get Lab Maniac, or like it gets removed as you're going to draw the last card, which is part of like the risk.
Part of Magic.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when you can control it better, I just think it's better. Like, if you could just draw one at a time, what's wrong with that? Moderation.
I would like to see like an Elixir of Immortality or something in this deck.
Yeah.
For that. I think that's one thing this deck is missing, is a way to send a bunch of cards back so you can draw more cards.
Or
he
was
says
it?
Crawler's in, but Crawler won't trigger unless, you'll put all the triggers on the stack, but then if you draw out first, then all those triggers leave the stack when you die for not being able to draw the card.
Whichever ones are left, though, right? Because Psychosis. So, oh, when it's a one big draw,
Yeah.
because you won't get. Yeah, you're right. Speaking of which,
Or even if they
Psychosis-
kill the Crawler.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, all those triggers go away.
Wait, what? Oh, if they do it before the pain triggers go on, you mean? Yes. Okay. I thought you were like, if the pain triggers are on the stack and they kill Crawler, the pain triggers go away. I'm like, what magic are you playing? This ain't Hearthstone.
No.
Alright,
so kill the Crawler in response to you about to do the thing.
Speaking of Psychosis Crawler, we're getting
Seems like
into...
a very good use of a K-grip there.
Yes, I agree. That's actually I was gonna say that. I was like, oh, this is where you see the K-grip come out to mess up your like drawing and stuff. But we are getting into the finishers. So Psychosis Crawler, 5 mana, artifact creature horror. It's a rare. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand, and whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So if you're losing half your life, rounded up or down, or whatever the hell Infernal Contract said, you're basically dealing that much damage if this is on the battlefield and stays there. So if you are losing, let's just say, 10 life, you're dealing 10 damage to each opponent, which, again, 4-person game assumed, that's 30 damage with Psychosis Crawler, which is pretty neat. Exsanguinate, we talked about, is just big expel, drain people for all the mana, and helps you stay alive. Gary is another big finisher. We talked before that you could whip Gary out. Gary and Vilis alone are 5 per person because it deals damage to each opponent per your devotion to black. So that's going to be black from Gary, black from Vilis. Then you gain all that life back. So again, 4-person game assumed. That's 15 life back to you, 5 to the table, not accounting for anything else. Now, if you're talking about like you have Citadel out, that's another black. So that's another
or
3.
Necropotence.
Necropotence is another 3. Lich's Mastery, I think, has 2, right?
Whip is 2.
Oh, Lich's Mastery is 3. So Lich's Mastery is in here. And this is kind of a cool card in this deck. So this is a legendary rare enchantment all the way back from, not all the way back, back a year or so.
All the way.
Dominaria. 3 black. So again, the devotion, like I was saying. It has
I remember a time when we were playing Magic from Dominaria, all the way back then.
I remember when we were playing Magic from Dominaria before the Dominaria set, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So you can chill your sassiness. I bring you on here for sass. That's actually not true at all.
3 and 3 black, legendary enchantment, hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, you draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control, or card from your hand or graveyard. When it leaves the battlefield, you lose the game.
So this is actually one of, like, I think the coolest cards that Vilis can run. Like, this is the card that saves you from decking out. At least initially, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, if you get to the point where you've lost so much life that you don't have a board, a hand, or a graveyard, then you're gonna have to eventually exile Lich's Mastery and lose the game. But I don't know. It's this is kind of like I think one of the more important parts of the entire deck, and I love the fact that it's hexproof.
Yeah.
So pretty much the only way you're getting rid of it is mass effects. So mass enchantment removal, mass permanent removal, mass bounce in terms of blue.
Yeah. No one. That's my problem with it. It's a big risk.
Yeah.
When you playing this card, you better be winning pretty quickly, because with like you said, every blue deck, unless the you know, unless your particular meta has rules against it, every deck that's running blue is going to be running Cycrift, and then you lose the game when they Cycrift. Most white decks are going to be running Austere Command. Most,
Green deck.
or huh?
Green decks. Bane of Progress is pretty
Bane
popular.
of Progress for green decks, yeah. Um, Most Orzhov decks are going to be running Merciless Eviction. So this card really exposes you, and you're paying it. You're playing it for 6, and when you're paying it for 6, you're in range of all the cards we just named. Because if you're paying it for 6, your opponents will most likely also have 6 mana and can play one of those cards, and then it's just game over. Congratulations. So yeah, the hexproof is nice because then it can't just be target remove out, but there's enough like wipes that are just frequently played in Commander for this card
Mhm.
that it's always made me nervous to try to play it in Commander unless it's part of like a I'm playing this and I'm about to combo out and win right now.
I think that's what it's for, though. I think it's play this, have your pay life activated ability, your Wall of Blood or whatever, or your Bolus to Citadel, and you just go off,
Yeah.
and then that's the game. You have your Necropotence, and you just draw your whole deck, and it's like, all right, if you can't stop me, I'm winning. And I mean, sometimes I'm sure you will kind of get blown out by the Psych Rift. That happens. I think you just have to pay attention to the board. That's another thing. Like you can't Psych Rift if you don't have 7 on tap mana.
Hmm.
So because you can't single target it. You can't Bane of Progress at instant speed most of the time. Like most of those effects are
Unless
sorcery
you're Joff
speed.
Sukai and just play Vidal Canori in every deck you have.
First of all, yes. Second of all, stop it. But
Hey, this is one more reason to play Vidal Canori in every deck.
oh jeez,
To be able to respond to
oh
Lich's
jeez.
Mastery. There you go. Got there.
But still, even with Vidalcan Orrery, if you're tapped out is tapped
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of playing Lich's Mastery kind of speaks to like you're gonna be hypersensitive to what people are doing. I think playing Vilis in general, you're gonna be hypersensitive to what people are doing. If there's a huge aggro threat out there, I don't think you necessarily want Vilis on the field in case you do get damaged to the point where you deck out.
Hmm?
Because let's say you've gained a lot of life. Then you won't die from the damage, but you'll die from just not having enough cards and not having the ability to respond on somebody else's turn, perhaps.
If I'm playing a super aggro deck and there's a Vilis deck sitting at the table, I'm gonna be hitting them a lot.
As early as possible.
Yes.
That way, you're putting the damage in, making it harder for them to draw cards with their
Yeah.
activated abilities, and you get to pressure them later on with decking because Vilis is out or whatever. And, like, okay, yeah, you have your Flying Demon, but if you have a go wide strategy, it's not going to matter. Unless you're doing some kind of a Vilis token deck, which I don't know if one exists, but yeah, you never know. Bond of Agony. Oh, okay. It's basically. Oh, wow. X and a black. Sorcerer speed. As an additional cost to play Bond of Agony, pay X life. Each other player loses X life. It's like the setup finisher. You play this one to get into like the real finisher and to like knock people down low enough. You know what I mean? It's not quite exsanguinate because you have to have the life in order to be able to pay it.
Hmm.
But it gets you into the exsanguinate if you haven't already. And then what's your favorite one of these finishers?
My favorite, I mean, we have to say,
Yes.
Gary. Come on.
Oh, okay. I actually
But
don't
no,
think.
In all seriousness, I don't think he's the best finisher in the deck. I like the Repay in Kind.
Oh yeah.
I like the Repay in Kind combo with Lich's Mastery, where you go down to negative life, but you don't die from Lich's Mastery. Then you play Repay in Kind, and everyone else just dies. I
This
do
is
like that combo. That is a sweet little combo that I
mhm.
like that.
So it's ironic. So one, going back to the very beginning of the episode where we were talking about his lands, you can make this uncounterable with Blessed Jew, which I think I have still said wrong. Two, um, I find it funny that this card depicts Sorin when Sorin Markov is the whole each player's or target opponent becomes 10. So
Mm-hmm.
this is very much a similar effect. So I like the consistency there. I'm big on little stupid details. In case anybody didn't know that, I've said it a million. I don't know which one's my favorite. I actually think I like the Psychosis Crawler because it's just very upfront. Like it's very much like you know what's gonna happen. You've been here before because you've seen a Psychosis Crawler. If you're an EDH player, you've seen a Psychosis Crawler at some point in your life. So you see my commander. You see this Psychosis Crawler. You see this how I can pay X life. What do you think we're doing right now? Especially if it's a Wall in Blood. Then you or a Necropotence, because then you just pay one. Doot 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 doot. Death by a million cuts.
Yeah.
Just do the one. Just do the one. Just do the one. Is there an Essence Harvest? I do not see
I
one.
did not see an Essence Harvest. No.
I'm
Essence
sure.
Harvest is another good card for Vilis, definitely.
I'm sure. There's probably. I don't. It might be good as one of his like life gain spells. I don't know. I think it's kind of a hard to find room in a deck like this because you do need so much ramp. Like he has a lot of ramp. He has like what are you gonna do if you can't get your commander out? Sit there, look silly. I don't know. Would you? So for those of you who are curious about these kind of things, the deck according to deck stats is $331, which is about average, I would say, for commander decks. I'm always unaware of what people think is a lot of money because when I started building commander decks, my decks came to somewhere between the 4 and the 500, and like now I'm starting to have decks that are a little bit more because I've started to be able to get some of the more expensive cards or some of my older cards have just naturally gone up in price. So like my Edgar deck is closing in on 700, which is apparently not budget, but I've seen people with like $1,000 decks, and I'm like $700 over the course of like 6 years playing doesn't seem like a huge amount, but whatever. This is not an MOCL deck. It is 9 ticks too much. MOCL decks being that they have to be under 25 ticks or less. Not that it matters, since we're never doing another MOCL episode again.
Never?
Never again.
I quote you on that?
Yeah. We'll
Well,
never
I'm not
do.
sleeping.
We will never do an
Hold on.
episode called Magic Online Commander League ever again. I said it. So, what do you think overall of the deck, especially in conjunction with like the budget and everything?
I think overall I like it. I mean, it's got some cool combos. It's got some neat things. Like I said, there are a couple card choices that you can see some things that can be traded out, but it sounds like more or less because of the cards that he had or did not have, as opposed to like you know choosing to leave them out. But I like it a lot. I like the Suicide Black. I don't play Suicide Black a lot. I guess I'm not brave enough for it, but I
He's
do like the concept.
not brave enough. So
Yeah, I'm
DB
not
Kraus
brave enough
asked
to
about
put
the
myself
breakdown.
way down.
The mana curve is actually amazingly small for having an 8-drop commander. It's 3.48, where last time I remember somebody breaking it down, they said that 3.2 was kind of the sweet spot. I always think that kind of depends. I think it's anywhere from like a 3 to like a 3.6, I think is acceptable. It kind of curves where you want your ramp to be and everything like that, but whatever. Obviously, he's done great with the mana source distribution. It is 100% exactly where it should be. Black all the time. Good job, Fireheart. You did it. We talked a little bit before. He does only have the 10 creatures. He has 54 spells, including artifacts. Let's see if I can. Okay. More details, so you can kind of see there's 15 artifacts, 22 sorceries. Oh my goodness. 2 planeswalkers. What was Liliana and what was the other one? I missed Liliana. Oh, Ugin. That's right. I forgot we talked about him earlier.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ugin.
10
Ineffable.
creatures, 7 enchantments, 8 instants, and 36 lands. That's another thing too. The mana curve will sometimes dictate, in my opinion, how many lands you want. I would probably want to go 37, maybe 38 at a 3.5 ish, right? But with so much ramp that he has, maybe it's fine. And he does have a lot of low costed ramp, 1s and 2s. I think I want to say the highest his ramp went was 3.
Yeah, I think it could be fine.
Oh no, 4 if you want to count like the Cryptgas and Liliana Dark Realms. 6 if
He
you
has
want to
the
count the
Nirvana
Ravenheart.
Roadhog. But I think 36 is probably fine, but I kind of lean towards 37 here too, just because you can't really count Cabal Coffers as a land.
Yep.
Because it doesn't actually net you mana until you have, the 3 swamps.
Yep.
So you can't really count it as a land.
I agree.
And then Bosuju is also kind of hard to count as land because it enters the battlefield tap, and you are having to pay the 2 life to get the 1 mana. I know you do get the 1 mana, but until Vilis comes out, you aren't really getting the full advantage of that. It feels real bad to be paying 2 life for 1 mana to cast an artifact spell.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
it feels real bad. I've
Ancient.
been in that boat before in decks I have that run Bosuju, but the paying the 2 life, you get that 1 mana to cast something that's not
Yeah.
instant or sorcery, it just real feels bad. It'd be less so in this deck if you have Vilis out, because then sometimes you might be activating it just to say, hey, I just want this 1 mana just so I can draw 2 cards. And that's great, but if you don't have Vilis out, you could have some feels bads with that too. That's probably why I would lean towards 37, is just some of the lands that are in here that don't really get you much until then, but I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Overall,
also another reason to have Urborg, which, like he said, he just doesn't have an Urborg, but if you
I
have an
agree.
Urborg, throw it in.
Yeah. I agree with all those points. They're good points. I made half those points earlier, so I agree.
Did you?
Some of them.
Well,
I said half. That's some.
fair.
Less than half is some. More than half is some. I just didn't say all. So, yeah, I like it. I love Vilis in general. I think he's just super good.
You have Vilis and Commander,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
General. That's completely different.
Yeah. I don't know if I would play Vilis in limited. There's not enough reanimation style stuff, I think, to benefit from him in that sense. I don't know. Is reanimation a big thing in modern? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe just for Vilis he'll become a thing. If Hogak can become a thing. Never mind. Hogak's actually ridiculous, but that's also in Commander, but in Modern too. But I think that's gonna be it for this one. I enjoyed going over the deck. This was actually fun. Rexon,
Wow.
how did you enjoy it?
Actually fun, huh? Were you expecting it to not be fun?
Well,
Are
you were
scratching Fireheart
back,
right
so
now?
I was gonna have to talk to you.
Ouch. Well, that's fair.
I
That's fair.
enjoyed the week off.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, next Monday will be another week off. I will not be here. I will be traveling, and I am not bringing
On
a
actual
webcam.
vacation.
Yeah. I will not be bringing a laptop and a webcam and a microphone and my headset. I'm not doing all that crap. So, we are not going to be here next Monday. Heard it here first. Don't be here. Can be here. I don't care. You can be here on YouTube. Whatever you want to do. But don't expect us to be here. Unless, again, Phyrexian wants to just host his own. You can have Phyrexian Goes Wild Day.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'd go wild on.
Whatever.
Ooh, we could talk about why Paradox Engine should be unbanned.
Wow. Are you one of those? That's right. You were gone when it got banned, so we didn't even really get to talk about it.
Gone when it got banned.
Oh, Jesus.
Sad day.
Well, I know what we're talking about the Monday after that then. We're going to have a debate. Me versus
I'm one of those
Phyrexian.
that just in general, I don't really like cards getting banned unless they're really terribly problematic. I didn't see Paradox Engine as terribly problematic.
I have
You
been
already had the perfect answer printed for it in the card called Crossing Grip. So also
no,
any counterspell.
no. Oh, so green and blue.
Hey, you know what? If you aren't playing green or blue, then you better be playing the deck that's playing Paradox Engine.
Well, half of those are green or blue decks.
Well, even better, you can do both.
So what you're saying is this one card made 2 out of 5 colors extra powerful when they're already 2 of probably the 3 most powerful colors, and you can make an argument
Hey,
for between
there are
green and
plenty
black.
of mono red decks using Paradox Engine as a win con too.
How often do you play out in the wild? Me, never. Minus what we do on Discord. I don't have a play group right now. I'm sad about it. But I don't know. I've heard too many horror stories. As far as like we're gonna do this really really quick, 5 minutes. As far as like the Iona and Painter's Servant thing, I didn't really care. I've been Iona'd before, and the game was still fine. I didn't win the game, but I killed the person who Iona'd me. So it was Iona, which was Mono White Angels, me on Edgar Markov, and then 2 Bant decks. So there are 3 opponents playing white, and he chose to play black. So he sent a very specific message. I still killed his ass, and then I lost to the 2 Bant decks that were actually playing the game at that point. But again, like I wouldn't have banned Iona personally. I kind of do see what a lot of people said about Iona got banned, so Painter Servant could be unbanned. I don't really care if people run the the Grindstone combo with Painter Servant, then whatever. I mean, another 2-card combo exists. We don't have those ever in Commander. It's gonna be the same thing. You just talk to people and, hey, I don't like 2-card combos. Okay, we won't play them. Problem solved. But I do think that Paradox Engine needed to be banned. Personally. Sorry. Hurt your feelings. I'm not sorry. I don't care about your feelings.
You shouldn't be.
Alright, that's it for us.
I'm a terrible person.
You are.
But I do like Paradox Engine.
And that's why.
And a lot of my decks are just going to have to be worse now without it.
You're worse without it. Boom.
That's true. I am better with the Paradox Engine.
That is it for this one. Had a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do these again. I think we're going to keep it to being a patron perk. Park? Yes, you may park your patron.
Yes. You may park on our stream if you are a patron.
God, why do I say
That is
words?
how your deck gains parking permits on our stream.
I didn't even say permits. I ain't just making shit up.
I'm just making stuff up to try to make what you said make any sense whatsoever.
A patron perk. So if you are one of our patrons over at patreon.com/PraetorMagic, you can start for just $1. You can basically email or talk to us on Discord about a deck that you want, and we will find time in the schedule of these Reflections episodes to just go over your deck, talk about things that we like, things that we don't like, suggestions that we would make. We obviously talked a little bit about like Toxic Deluge, Urborg, and some other things for this deck. Some of the cards that we weren't 100% sure why, and we got some answers while Pyroheart was in the chat, and that was great. So we can do that again with your deck if you want to become a patron. Again, $1 a month, not much, but it helps us kind of curb the cost of making these videos, making the decks that we play on stream, doing the giveaways, doing everything else that we do. So those all come pretty much out of pocket if we don't have anything to cover costs. So that's kind of why we started doing the Patreon. Of course, make sure you go and check out our friends over at inkgaming.com via the affiliate links that will be in the video and audio down below, or descriptions down below. Make sure you're using that Praetor10 coupon code. That gets you 10% off, and again, helps support us on the back end. And you can find us at twitter.com/PraetorMagic, facebook.com/PraetorMagic, instagram.com/PraetorMagic, youtube.com/PraetorMagic, a million podcast sites that I can no longer list because the list is way too long. If you just search for Praetor Magic or Reflections of the Council on your favorite podcast platform, you should find us. And then you can join our Discord, which doesn't have an easy title because why Discord? And that's it. I've had fun. Fun has been had. Yeah,
I like Vilis. Vilis is cool.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days we'll do like one of our lists too. Just to like you can do a list and I'll ask you questions and give you comments as we go it, and like we could do it vice versa, where I will just make the jankiest deck ever, and you'll ask me a question and be like, I don't friggin' know, man. I just put cards into a list just to mess with you. I will do a full addendum list.
Oh.
Every addendum card ever.
I'll be missing. Well, that wouldn't be a lot of them, and it would be a terrible deck.
Speaking
Minus
of
like
which,
3 cards.
Phyrexian, have you seen the last MOCL video ever?
I have not yet watched the last MOCL video ever.
I just want you to know that we remind you, because we specifically remind you, Phyrexian, whenever it comes up, addendum won a game.
I'm sorry. Has emergency powers ever been used effectively in a game of Commander?
No, that wasn't the one. I forget. It was a progressive
I'm
proclamation
still
or something.
sticking with how much I said that card sucked. And that's my main reason that
Actually,
addendum sucks is that card.
we're gonna hold on. Bear with me. This is the last thing we're gonna do. Then we're gonna say goodbye. We're gonna go over edhrec.com. We're gonna do this for Phyrexian. I just want to see how many decks. It's emergence powers or emergency powers?
Emergency powers, I think.
Emergency powers. Click of my keyboard. Thank you. It comes up, so at least it's in here. It's in the database. That doesn't mean it. I just want it to be like 1,000 decks.
No, 491.
491.
1% of 55,000 decks.
Damn. I really just wanted it to be 1,000. Be like, look, 1,000 people put this in.
Oh. So it would be
wow.
1,000 really dumb people. We still have 491 really dumb people.
It could all be the same person. You don't know. It could all be Magical Hacker.
Just to troll me.
Yeah. Just to corrupt EDHREC data and troll you. Oh, speaking of stuff, I just saw Kaikar in the commanders that are running this. Follow me on Twitter, DM_cross. I've been doing brackets. You can also see these in the Discord if you join the Discord, which there's a link down below. I've been doing brackets for each color or color combination. So right now I have Golgari, Boros, and Jeskai running to find the best commanders of each color and color combination. So right now I think Jeskai is about to be either Kaikar or Ruhan. Kaikar beat out Narset. That's a big deal. For those of you who can't see me because you're in audio world, that's a big deal. I'm like shaking my hands around. Golgari's running strong and Boros just started today. So if you want to vote and participate in those kind of things, I think they're a lot of fun. I get so many comments of people who are like, this one is obviously the best, and then gets voted out, and it's hilarious. So many people told me, why are you even doing this Jeskai bracket? Narset's obviously the best. Didn't even make it to the finals, did it? Boom, Valdor.
Well, people can't be held too responsible for other people just doing things wrong.
Hey man, Kaikar, new hotness. Knocked her out.
Yeah, that's kind of like the new shiny penny, though, against the old rusty quarter.
Boom!
Quarter's still
DP
worth
Cross.
more in the end.
DP Cross on the chat. Narset is so boring. Be original. Be new.
Boring, yes. Good.
Also yes. I'll give you that one. I'm not gonna argue with you. You could be boring and good, but that's it.
A great night. You guys have been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Pyreheart. One, for being a patron. Obviously, thank you so much for that. But then for supplying your deck so that we could do this. This was a lot of fun. I hope we do one of these again. We have talked for way too long because we are gone way over time. Good night, everybody. Peace.